So I've got the RC tow truck here. You're like, where's that? Here's the frame. We're going to just do our build series by, it's mostly built. So now we're going to do the final assembly. So let's just start with the frame. The frame is this aluminum, 1/4 inch. It's very durable. It's lightweight. The only downside is that I do not have a welder that can weld aluminum right now. Maybe in the future. So it's flat through here. You know, this stuff could be welded, but it's screwed together right now. Not deal breakers by any means. Probably should have more supports along here. We're going to have the front bumper up here as a support. The interior will help support. So we're going to get the drivetrain all in it, axles, transmission, all that. To show you under here, I did have to cut out for the dig servo and for our spur gear. But looking at the top, I mean, I guess if you're really looking for it, you can probably see some light through there. I don't think that people are going to be looking enough in there at that. Yeah, the interior is nothing fancy. I didn't want to do anything too fancy. I probably should have painted up the dash more. Maybe I will before I get it all in there. But let's get this in. We'll get the drivetrain all in it. Then we can start looking at the next step. So we've got our interior put on, drivetrain on, rock sliders are put on. As you can see, I have this is like from a Maxstone 10. This drops down from my transmission transfer case, hooks my 4-link all up to it. That way we can have the straight piece of frame. We still have our drop down for our drivetrain to halfway line up and look decent. So now the big problem is we've got to mount the receiver. And you would think with 17 inches of wheelbase that you'd have plenty of real estate to do that. But the big thing is that we've got like 9 servos / light connections, whatever, that's going to be right here. So the ideal place for the receiver is here. That way we're not running a bunch of jumpers from the back to the front. We can only have to run maybe 1 jumper for the steering servo from the front to the back. And then our light kit will stay up here, and we will have to run some wiring to the back for the lights, but that will probably be a later project in this little video series. So tonight I'm going to try to get the receiver mounted. I'm going to check the lights out, try to label what light does what, and maybe get the cab on. Maybe. A little catch up to where I'm at. A few days later, desk is a mess. Life of it, I guess. So we've got my light kit up here. I'm just using a really thin piece of styrene right here to bolt it, or to not bolt it to, but to glue it to. The receiver is 100% going to go back here, but I've got the receiver, plus I've got that winch controller and another light kit. So that light controller is going to control all the lighting on the back of the tow truck. I've got everything fairly ran through here decently, I think. It's all coming through that little spot, and some of it's coming down on the bottom side of the transfer case there. I'm going to have to get an extension, going to have to build an extension for the power. Got to try to figure out how to roll up this 3 miles of cable right here and put in there somewhere. But I think the idea is going to be, I know it's hard to see, that's a shit mess, but the idea is going to be, I'm going to take, there's a gap, maybe you can see it in here, there's a gap that goes from the bottom of the frame to the top of the bed there, or the bottom side of the bed. So I'm going to put a piece of styrene in there and basically create this area, probably from that tactic servo all the way to this servo, as a giant box for all this junk to live. All of it can live in there and hopefully not be noticeable. So that's going to be on the agenda, to get the bottom made for this. And right now I think I'm going to kind of hold up on working on this. We're going to switch over to the structure for the tow truck. We're going to try to get the light bar that's going to live in here in there. And I've also got other lights that I'm going to put on this somehow. Let's get it done. So a little trick for building like a big side mirror. I took this piece of all thread and I ran it through this tube of brass and then bent it. It's a little big. It probably could have been cut back more back in here, but it's kind of hard to cut that stuff on the bend. Gives you an idea of a way that you can make you some semi-truck looking mirrors maybe. Got all of our wiring back here. Our receiver made a tray for all this. So now I just got to get all this packed up, put in there. I've got to get this light and winch controller. Where is it at? Right here. Got to get that in there and that BEC in there. And then we have very little work left to do after that. So we'll get this in there and move to the next step.